When the mighty galactic hegemony arrives at Earth, expecting to conquer yet another primitive species, they are met with an unprecedented response. Instead of submission, humanity has spent centuries preparing for the very moment of first contact with an evacuation protocol that turns retreat into evolution and survival into a galactic revolution. As their ships disappear into hyperspace, the hegemony realizes too late. Humanity's true strength isn't in their weapons, but in their boundless potential to adapt, evolve, and expand beyond the reach of any empire. Will the stars be enough to contain their ambition, or will humanity redefine the future of the galaxy? Admiral Keizo, a high-ranking official of the galactic hegemony, watched with growing frustration as human colony ships continuously slipped into hyperspace, vanishing from his sensors. His mission was supposed to be straightforward. The hegemony, a vast and powerful empire that had lasted for over 10,000 years, followed a predictable protocol when encountering new civilizations: demonstrate overwhelming force, demand tribute, and then add the newly discovered species to their growing empire. This strategy had been successful countless times across the galaxy, and Keizo expected no different from Earth. However, humanity had other plans. Instead of the anticipated response of fear, awe, and quick submission, the humans acted in a way that defied Keizo's understanding. His fleet arrived in Earth's solar system 3 days earlier, expecting a traditional encounter where they would easily assert their dominance. But instead of cowering in terror, as was typical for civilizations facing the mighty hegemony, humans began evacuating their homeworld in an organized fashion. Their colony ships were equipped with advanced technology, and their movements suggested strategic planning, not panic. The situation unfolded in a way that Keizo had never encountered before. Humanity was not simply reacting to their arrival. They seemed to have been preparing for this very moment for centuries. As Keizo's fleet observed, they realized that Earth's civilization was not a primitive species to be conquered, but one that had developed sophisticated strategies for dealing with outside threats. The constant disappearance of human ships into hyperspace, unpredictable and sudden, hinted at a level of preparedness that was completely unexpected. The hegemony's usual tactics for assimilating new civilizations were ineffective, leaving Keizo in a state of confusion and frustration. Instead of easily adding another species to their empire, they were faced with a civilization that appeared capable of evading and resisting their efforts, marking the beginning of an unprecedented and troubling encounter. When the hegemony fleet first arrived in Earth's solar system, Admiral Keizo expected a familiar reaction. Historically, when the hegemony encountered a less advanced species, their protocol involved intimidating displays of power, followed by demands for tribute and eventual assimilation. Yet, as the fleet made its presence known, something far from the usual response occurred. Rather than seeing the typical submission or panic from the human population, Keizo encountered something entirely different. Humanity was prepared not only for first contact, but for possible invasion or conquest. This revelation began to unfold the moment the fleet's sensors picked up thousands of sleeper ships in various stages of construction around Earth, scattered across the planet. These sleeper ships were the first clue that something was amiss in the humans' response. Unlike primitive species that the hegemony had encountered in the past, who would scramble to defend their homeworld in desperate, ill-prepared efforts, humanity's actions suggested a level of foresight and readiness. Keizo's fleet had detected these ships being built in secret, far from the watchful eyes of galactic empires, and this hinted at the possibility that the humans had long been preparing for a day like this. These ships weren't hastily thrown together. They were sophisticated, fully functional vessels, some nearly ready to launch. What Keizo didn't expect was the calmness with which the humans responded to the hegemony's arrival. Rather than breaking down in fear or trying to resist with outdated weapons, the humans had a plan. They would evacuate Earth. The first communication they received was a message so chilling in its simplicity that it only heightened the sense of mystery surrounding humanity's preparedness. Thank you for the warning. Please excuse our dust as we evacuate. This wasn't the frantic panic of a civilization caught off guard. Instead, it was the carefully orchestrated execution of a well-established protocol, what the humans referred to as the Diaspora Protocol. The more Keizo observed, the more it became clear humanity wasn't just surviving, they were adapting and evolving. The idea of building sleeper ships suggested that humanity had understood the long-term implications of their existence in a galaxy full of powerful empires. They had anticipated the possibility of conquest and prepared for it in a way no other species had. This level of preparedness went beyond the immediate need for survival. It was a calculated strategy that allowed humanity to endure, expand, and thrive even in the face of overwhelming threats. For the first time, the hegemony found itself facing a civilization that had not only the foresight to prepare for the worst, but the innovation and discipline to execute it with precision. As the hegemony fleet continued to observe humanity's responses, it became increasingly clear that the humans' technological capabilities were not necessarily more advanced than those of the hegemony. However, their technology was fundamentally different, and this difference proved to be a major advantage. While the hegemony had spent thousands of years perfecting its empire-building technologies, focusing on weapons of conquest and domination, humanity had taken a completely different approach. They had prioritized survival, adaptation, and creating systems that would allow them to escape and thrive under adverse circumstances rather than seeking outright military superiority. The key to understanding humanity's technological edge lay in their ships. Unlike the vast fleets of the hegemony, which were built primarily for combat, humanity's vessels were designed for mobility, sustainability, and the ability to escape when necessary. These ships were not war machines. They were mobile habitats, capable of sustaining entire populations for long periods. Equipped with hydroponic farms, fusion reactors, and manufacturing facilities, these vessels were self-sufficient and built to endure. They were capable of carrying thousands of people across the galaxy, not as refugees, but as intentional colonists, each with the tools to create new lives and new worlds. In contrast, the hegemony ships were designed for speed, firepower, and the destruction of enemy forces. Their fleets were formidable in combat, but they were not as versatile or as adaptable as the human ships. The human ships' use of quantum entanglement drives, which allowed them to make unpredictable jumps and appear in different parts of the galaxy at will, rendered the hegemony's conventional tracking and predictive systems useless. The hegemony's fleet was unable to match the human vessels in speed, and it became increasingly difficult to predict where the next wave of colony ships would emerge. This unpredictability frustrated Keizo and his officers, who had grown accustomed to dealing with less agile species that adhered to more conventional patterns of warfare and defense. What the hegemony didn't anticipate was how human ingenuity would manifest in this technological development. The humans had spent centuries not just trying to outgun their potential enemies, but outthink them. Their ships weren't merely a means of transportation. They were a reflection of humanity's ability to adapt to new environments and challenges. This was a civilization that, instead of focusing on overwhelming force, had perfected the art of evasion and resilience. While the hegemony had built an empire by subjugating and conquering, humanity had built a network of self-sustaining, adaptable colonies designed to survive, spread, and thrive across the galaxy. The true strength of humanity lay in this technological difference, which allowed them to survive the hegemony's attempts at domination and to continue their exodus with remarkable efficiency. As Admiral Keizo continued to observe humanity's activities, he was faced with another shocking revelation. Earth's moon was being transformed at an astonishing rate into a massive fleet of colony ships. The hegemony's sensors detected massive energy signatures emanating from the moon, signaling the large-scale manufacturing of ships. This was not a normal industrial operation. It was something far more extraordinary. The moon, once a simple celestial body orbiting Earth, was being rapidly converted into spacecraft components through a process that was far beyond what the hegemony had ever encountered. The level of transformation was unlike anything they had seen before, even in their own vast empire. Keizo watched in disbelief as lunar facilities, once known for mining and manufacturing, began to convert entire portions of the moon's surface into shipyards. The scale of this operation was mind-boggling. Using what appeared to be matter reconstruction technology, a process that allowed raw planetary material to be converted into fully functioning spacecraft, the humans were quickly assembling hundreds of ships in orbit around the moon. This technology was unheard of, even by the hegemony's standards, as no species in the galaxy had the capability to convert entire planetary surfaces into fleet components at such a rapid pace. The hegemony had never seen anything like it, and this new, almost incomprehensible technology began to signal that humanity was not just reacting to the hegemony's presence. They were launching a massive and highly efficient exodus. The idea that humanity could carry out such a large-scale transformation with the resources of a single celestial body was a clear indicator of how prepared they were for the future. This was no longer just about fleeing from the hegemony or surviving a potential invasion. Humanity had a long-term vision, and their moon-based shipyards were a testament to that. They weren't just building ships for evacuation. They were preparing for colonization on an unprecedented scale. The very act of converting the moon into a launch platform for these colony ships highlighted the humans' ability to think beyond their immediate circumstances and to execute an extraordinary engineering feat. For Keizo, the transformation of the moon was the tipping point. It became clear that humanity was not simply trying to escape. They were creating a self-sustaining network of colonies, each with the potential to thrive and develop independently. The vast resources required to undertake such a project indicated that the humans had access to a level of technological innovation that the hegemony had vastly underestimated. The process was fast, organized, and remarkably efficient, further reinforcing the idea that humanity was not just prepared to escape. They were planning a complete and long-term migration of their entire species across the galaxy. This act of transforming a whole moon into a fleet of ships left Keizo with the unsettling realization that humanity's capabilities far exceeded the hegemony's assumptions and expectations. When Admiral Keizo and his fleet finally made contact with humanity's leadership, they encountered yet another surprise: the calm and collected response from Dr. Sarah Chun, a human diplomat, who appeared to have been expecting their arrival. This was the moment that fully revealed humanity's preparedness and strategic thinking. In the transmission that Keizo received, Dr. Chin explained that humanity had spent over 300 years planning for a scenario exactly like this, and their response was not panic or fear, but the execution of a well-rehearsed plan, the Diaspora Protocol. This protocol, as Dr. Chin explained, was humanity's method of ensuring survival in the event of first contact with an advanced and potentially hostile species. Rather than fighting or submitting to conquest, humanity's plan had always been to spread out, to disperse across the galaxy in a way that would preserve their culture, species, and knowledge. The core principle behind this strategy was simple: never allow one species to control or dominate humanity. By dispersing across the stars, humanity could ensure that no one empire or civilization could wipe them out or enslave them. The goal was to adapt to every new world they encountered, creating a mosaic of diverse, self-sustaining colonies rather than submitting to the centralized power of an empire. Dr. Chen's calm demeanor as she addressed Keizo was a stark contrast to the hegemony's expectations. They had assumed that upon encountering a technologically inferior species, the humans would cower in fear, begging for mercy or falling in line with the hegemony's demands for tribute. Instead, humanity had studied its own history, particularly the unfortunate fates of civilizations that had been conquered by more advanced species, and concluded that survival required them to either resist domination or abandon their homeworld entirely. The evacuation wasn't a sign of weakness or fear. It was a deliberate, calculated move. The humans had learned from the failures of other civilizations and decided to implement a strategy that would allow them to thrive rather than perish. What the hegemony found particularly perplexing was that this was not a desperate escape, but a well-planned relocation. Dr. Chen explained that Earth had taught humanity everything they needed to know about survival, adaptation, and building new homes. By evacuating to the stars, humanity was embarking on an era of expansion, where they would no longer be confined to a single homeworld. Instead, they would spread across the galaxy, building new civilizations in a variety of environments, each colony adapting to its own specific conditions. Over time, humanity would evolve not as a single culture or species, but as a diverse and adaptable collection of civilizations, each contributing to humanity's collective growth. This would ultimately ensure that humanity would never again be a single target for any empire's conquest. It was a vision of freedom, independence, and evolution that deeply contrasted with the hegemony's hierarchical, centralized approach to empire building. As Admiral K. Zoe listened to Dr. Sarah Chen's explanation, he was confronted with a fundamental misunderstanding about humanity's long-term goals. While the hegemony had spent thousands of years building an empire based on conquest, control, and centralized power, humanity had developed a radically different vision for their future. Dr. Chen's words, "We're not building an empire, we're seeding a forest," encapsulated the essence of humanity's strategy and revealed how different their approach to expansion was. The concept of seeding a forest was a powerful metaphor for humanity's vision of galactic colonization. Unlike the hegemony, which relied on maintaining borders, imposing tribute, and centralizing authority to keep its subjects in line, humanity's approach was based on the idea of fostering a vast, decentralized network of independent colonies. Each colony ship, launched from Earth or other human bases, was intended to establish a new, self-sustaining culture and civilization. These colonies were not planned to function as carbon copies of each other, nor were they intended to be ruled by a central authority. Instead, they were meant to adapt to their new environments and evolve in unique ways, contributing to the broader growth of humanity as a whole. This decentralized model of expansion was fundamentally opposed to the empire-building mentality of the hegemony. Empires require borders, governance, and control, with the central authority demanding loyalty from its subjects. In contrast, humanity's colonies would be free to evolve and develop in ways that suited their specific circumstances, technologies, and challenges. Some of these colonies would undoubtedly fail, but many others would succeed and flourish in ways that even humanity could not predict. The idea was not to control the colonies, but to allow them to grow in their own unique directions. Each human settlement would represent a different subset of humanity's culture, technology, and ideology, contributing to a diversity of experiences and ideas. Dr. Chen made it clear that this vision was not just about survival or avoiding conquest. It was about evolution. By spreading across the galaxy, humanity would be able to encounter and solve problems that no one had faced before. As they established new colonies, humanity would learn and adapt to a variety of alien environments, challenges, and situations, accelerating their technological, cultural, and biological evolution. This would, in turn, allow humanity to contribute to the broader galactic community in ways the hegemony had never anticipated. The idea was that as humanity expanded, each colony would have its own solutions to offer, enriching the greater human experience and ensuring that no singular force could ever dominate or erase them. Dr. Chen's dismissal of the hegemony's idea of empire building demonstrated humanity's confidence in their unique path. They were not interested in submission, subjugation, or tribute. They were focused on a future where they would be free to explore, adapt, and grow without the constraints of an empire. The hegemony, with its centuries-old system of control and dominance, was ill-equipped to understand or combat such a vision. And it was this misunderstanding that would ultimately prove to be their downfall. Humanity's approach was not just about surviving the hegemony's threats. It was about reshaping the galaxy, one colony at a time, and in doing so, redefining the very concept of power and influence across the stars. One of the most striking aspects of humanity's plan, as revealed by Dr. Chen, was their ability to create self-sustaining colonies that would expand and evolve on their own. Unlike the hegemony, which had relied on centralized control, military might, and a strictly hierarchical approach to its expansion, humanity's technological advancements were designed to facilitate growth without the need for constant oversight or intervention from a central authority. This self-sufficiency and scalability were made possible by humanity's revolutionary technology, which allowed them to establish colonies and support them as they grew. A key feature of this technology was the use of self-replicating systems, which enabled humanity to create ships that could, in turn, build more ships. This technological breakthrough represented a geometric progression of expansion. The ships humanity built were not just capable of traveling vast distances. They were designed to be self-sustaining habitats. They could house populations, provide food through hydroponics farms, generate energy through fusion reactors, and even manufacture necessary supplies. Essentially, these colony ships were complete ecosystems, able to support human life for extended periods without requiring assistance from outside sources. Humanity's ships were designed for long-term habitation and resilience. This self-sufficiency was a direct result of humanity's approach to technological development, which emphasized practicality, adaptability, and sustainability over military superiority or dominance. While the hegemony had focused on weaponry and methods of conquest, humanity had spent centuries developing technology that could ensure their survival and enable them to thrive, no matter where they found themselves in the galaxy. The ships were not merely designed for fleeing or escaping. They were mobile homes and factories, capable of sustaining entire communities for generations. The most significant aspect of this technology was its ability to scale. Dr. Chen spoke of how humanity's colonies would each carry a different subset of human culture, technology, and ideology. This meant that each new colony was not just a mirror of Earth or any central authority, but a unique, independent experiment in human civilization. The technology itself was flexible enough to accommodate a variety of environments, whether the colonies were established on planets with harsh climates, hostile ecosystems, or alien conditions. As humanity spread out across the stars, the technologies they used would evolve and adapt to the local circumstances, allowing them to flourish and innovate in ways the hegemony could not have anticipated. In contrast, the hegemony's reliance on centralized control and static technological systems meant they could not imagine a future where civilizations thrived independently, each pursuing its own path without the need for overarching control. The hegemony's fleets were designed for war and subjugation, their technologies built around domination. But humanity had turned their technological strengths toward creating a future where they would not need to dominate, but simply coexist. Each new colony a living, breathing example of how a species could grow and adapt in the vast, untamed expanse of the galaxy. This capacity for growth, independence, and rapid expansion was humanity's greatest weapon against the hegemony and any other power that sought to control them. By focusing on self-sufficiency and scalability, humanity had turned the very concept of colonization into something entirely new. Rather than a process of conquest or subjugation, colonization became an organic, expanding process of cultural evolution and adaptation. The technology they used allowed them to not only survive, but to thrive and rapidly multiply, ensuring that humanity would not just survive the hegemony's threats, but ultimately surpass them in both numbers and innovation. The final turning point in the script is when Admiral Keizo, having witnessed humanity's unprecedented technological and cultural evolution, is forced to reevaluate the nature of the threat they represent. Initially, the hegemony's strategy was straightforward: conquer, subjugate, and incorporate Earth into their 10,000-year-old empire. However, as the human exodus continued to accelerate and their colonies rapidly expanded, Keizo found himself facing a new kind of challenge, one that could not be defeated by sheer force or military superiority. In the face of humanity's innovations, resilience, and adaptability, Keizo is left in a position of helplessness, unable to grasp the full extent of humanity's potential. The hegemony, having ruled the galaxy for millennia, was built on a foundation of control, borders, and centralized power. For centuries, their military might have been unmatched, and they had expected all species they encountered to either submit or be destroyed. When humanity responded to their arrival not with fear or compliance, but with calculated, decentralized colonization, Keizo was unable to reconcile the situation. Humanity's refusal to be conquered, and their rather non-aggressive flight towards expansion, highlighted a deep philosophical divide. They weren't just retreating, they were setting the stage for a new kind of galactic evolution. Dr. Chen's words about the threat level, infinite potential, captured the essence of the hegemony's new realization. The hegemony had arrived expecting to add another civilization to their collection, a conquest to fuel their empire. Instead, they were witnessing the birth of something far more profound, a species whose very existence posed a fundamentally different kind of threat, the potential for limitless growth and expansion that could not be contained by the traditional structures of empire. Humanity wasn't bound by territorial borders or power struggles. They had transcended the need for conquest, replacing it with a vision of collective evolution and decentralized expansion. The implications of this were staggering. Humanity would keep growing, evolving, and spreading, and no single empire could ever fully control them. The infinite potential of humanity was not just about their ability to colonize the stars. It was about their capacity to continuously evolve, adapt, and innovate in ways that no other species had ever attempted. As humanity's colonies multiplied, each one would face unique challenges and environments. And through this diversity, humanity would thrive in ways the hegemony could never have predicted. The hegemony, with its rigid centuries-old system, could never match the fluidity and adaptability of humanity's decentralized expansion. Admiral K. Zo's final recognition of humanity's threat level as infinite potential underscored the hegemony's inability to understand the true nature of the human threat. They had underestimated humanity's creativity, its capacity for adaptation, and its willingness to break away from the old paradigms of conquest and subjugation. Where the hegemony saw only an empire-building machine, humanity was creating a living, breathing, evolving galaxy of its own. This realization marked a profound shift. Keizo recognized that the hegemony could never hope to control humanity, not because of superior military technology, but because humanity's approach was fundamentally incompatible with the hegemony's entire philosophy of domination. In the end, humanity's greatest strength was not just in their technology or their ability to spread across the stars. It was in their capacity to think beyond traditional concepts of power and control. This new vision, one of unlimited growth, diversity, and resilience, was something the hegemony could not contain. Rather than being a civilization to conquer, humanity had become a force of nature, unstoppable and expanding at a rate that could not be quantified, let alone controlled. The hegemony had witnessed the birth of a new kind of galactic order, one in which humanity would not simply survive. They would reshape the stars themselves.